like Miami.
Miami, 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 Miami.
It feel like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, it's reality check master Tiffany Meeks.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing good. Listen, Tiff really came through clutch today. Listen, I had other plans that totally did not happen, and I know I can count on Tiff. Truly, the MVP. I sent the scared text at like 6:30. It was very meek, right, Tiff? It was scared.
It was, but I got you.
True homie Hall of Fame moment from Tiff. Alf said nobody wants to see G nodding around awkwardly. We need an intro. Yes, Alf said. I explained to Tiff the situation. Word to John Crotty. Listen, we move. I wanted to give people the day off today. That didn't happen, but we're here. We have tons to talk about. Tiff.
Yeah.
I with you because I think out of everybody, you have the most level-headed, big perspective, big picture kind of takes here at Heat Beat. So we talked on Hangover Time last week. We're going to get into Duncan and Kyle, but I want to start with Miami's late game offense.
Mm-hmm.
And Siobhan and I would kind of get into that. I'm like, you know what? They're fine. I'm not like concerned. And Siobhan's like, well, I mean, they're blowing a lot of leads. Like, we should be a little concerned. So I kind of want to ask you, like, what your gauge is. We're almost a quarter of the way into the season about how they look in close games.
Right. So I was kind of wanting to hold off on this until like game 20, which is the Bulls, actually. So very interesting enough. But it's funny because I also kind of fooled myself last season and during the off season because I for some reason thought if they get a point guard, a pure point guard who can actually run the offense, we wouldn't have these late game kerfuffles, if you will. But it's happening more frequent than not. So to me, I guess if something happens more than 3 times, it's a trend. And that's pretty much where we are at this point. It's becoming a trend. So either they're blowing the leads and losing the game, or they're blowing the leads and now we're putting extra miles on the starters because we need them to play, the entire fourth quarter, whereas they would be sitting if we could maintain the leads.
So I think there's something interesting that Cooper Moorhead tweeted out the day of the Wizards game, the loss. Said Heat clutch offenses. So in the 2019-2020 season, they're the 23rd ranked clutch offense. In the 2020 through 2021 season, they were the 30th ranked clutch offense. And then this season, they're the 29th ranked clutch offense. The only real difference was the playoff run where they were the first ranked clutch offense. So that's kind of interesting. I do think that a lot of that, Tiff, stems from just they've been a bad half-court team. Right, like they've been hovering around 14 to 15. I think they've improved a little bit lately, but I think for the most part, I don't trust them in the half court. Part of that is, right. I think they lack some shooting. They have really done great, in the rebounding department, especially offensive rebounding.
Right.
That's kind of tipped off a little bit. I think Dedmon's playing time decreasing a little bit as well. Kind of hurts lately. So. I think for the most part, this kind of stems down to their half court offense. And it's just like what you said about trend. I mean, it's been a 3-year trend with them. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sure what they can do, It's just kind of who they are.
I think for this season, I think one of the things that stands out to me is that maybe they don't know yet where they want to go. The thing about it is that like, in the past, we only had Jimmy. Realistically, we only had Jimmy. So we knew, in the crunch time, like who's getting the ball. Like we know that. We know it's Jimmy. We knew he was getting the ball. But you've got Tyler who stepped into his own this season. You've got Bam and you've got Kyle. So I think maybe as Jimmy said, we need to grow up.
For those of you who are watching on stream, Ryan says if you balance your cameras and look toward each other, I'd buy you're in the same room. Tiff and I have a very similar lighting vibe going on right now.
We
White
do.
walls,
We
yeah.
do.
Yours looks a lot more personal. As Leif said, mine looks like a Miami dentist office in North Miami. So,
but yeah, so I think maybe, there may be a little struggle with that as to instead of riding a hot hand, maybe, we need to go to Jimmy, or there could be some push and pull there and they haven't quite figured it out, which is fine because at some point, the strongest finds its way to the top, which meaning, I look for it to honestly be Jimmy or Tyler who pretty much be running that offense in the crunch time. But I'm a little bit baffled as to how they're running the offense. Because if you're taking good shots and you're missing them, you're just missing them. But the fact of how they're running the offense, sometimes they're not getting a good shot off. Sometimes the ball's going through people's legs. We're throwing the ball out of bounds. So now that to me is a little bit more worrisome than the missed shots in the clutch.
do you think it's more like a they're being kind of klutzy and they're new to each other kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, they're as good as they look together in large spurts of the game. They don't know each other yet. It's only been 19 games. So we still have to be realistic on the fact that, like, while we see like Bam and Kyle have like great chemistry, it should get better.
I think they kind of go away from Bam to kind of
They
down
do.
the stretch.
They do. Well, and the problem is that they go away from Bam, but also Bam makes himself small.
Yeah.
So I see where you want the guards to get him the ball, but you also want the guards to see that he wants the ball. So he also has to do a better job of getting himself in the right positions when it's 3 minutes or less in the game.
So the Mad Heat fan tweeted out some stats today about clutch usage. Shout out to the pool party. Jimmy, 40% usage. Hero, 24% usage. This is all in the clutch. Lowry, almost 20%, and Bam at 19%. So Jimmy is just soaking up all those possessions, right? And Bam and Lowry are really getting squeezed out. I think Tyler, I don't think you wanted any higher than 24 as well as he's playing. So I think, it's like super Jimmy or bust, which has kind of been the trend of them, since he's gotten here, which I think that
Right.
a diversification of that, right, kind of piggybacking what
Right.
you said, having a real point guard to kind of organize you a little bit. They're a little short on shooting. So I understand that Jimmy kind of has to have the ball late, because if you have one of them off ball, well, I mean, I think you could put Jimmy off ball. You can count on him to be a smart cutter and stuff like that. But, I understand him being on the ball. But with Kyle not shooting well,
Right.
that's the other kind of part of this equation. So you basically have three dudes at the end of games who just can't hit a three.
Right.
So,
But I also think that, like, we already knew that. Like, nothing's changed with Jimmy, right? His 3-point shot, that it's pretty much what it is.
he's actually been better this season. I think he's
it
covering.
is.
Yeah.
But it's not, we're not talking about it, which means it's pretty much what it is.
Exactly.
Bam's not taking them, and then Kyle's not hitting them. So a lot of this also needs to fall on the coaching. If you've got three guys that aren't going to shoot it or hit it, then you've got to be more creative in the play calling, or literally Tyler's usage is going to go up in the fourth.
So
Because
this is.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was going to say, because I don't see any other way of this working out.
So Kyle is shooting about 31% from three, which would be the lowest percentage he's ever shot as like a real NBA player, right? I guess in Houston, he, in the Memphis days and those early Houston days, there wasn't a ton. And then I think one of those Houston years, he shot 27%. And then basically after that, it's been 37, 37, 36, 38, so on and so forth. So I do think that, by the way, shout out to chat today. Alf gifted a tier 1 sub, Elites XBL, subscribe for 11th month. I can live vegan. I can live whatever. I can live again. I'm sorry. Reading is fundamental. Subscribe to tier 1. You guys are freaking tastic. But I think you gotta, and I know that this may sound like kind of reductive, but you just kind of gotta let these dudes figure it out. Like, you gotta let Kyle figure it out. You gotta let Duncan figure it out. Like, they're good. They're freaking good, smart basketball players. And then there's not a lot of precedent for dudes being really, really good shooters and getting open shots and like not hitting them anymore.
Right. I also just think, whoa,
what's going on here?
What's happening, guys? Like, you guys sound so depressed. Like, you guys sound so down about this. They're 11-6.
They're good.
Like, they're really good.
I'm answering the questions that I'm being asked. Like,
I understand, but it's like you guys, you're like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen.
It's like NPR. It's like that
right.
NPR radio.
Oh my
right.
God, you guys are like, oh, Kyle Lowry, I don't know. I'm
Not
like,
me. I know.
I mean, here's the other side of it is, Alf, like, everything isn't cotton candy and rainbows. You do have to also be objective in the conversation.
We can be objective. Okay. All right. Objective.
Yes.
They do struggle late game situations. They went, to me, the last game they went away from Tyler Hero too soon. Like 6 minutes left. Tyler Hero's having a decent game. He has shown you over and over that he loves these moments. You didn't get the ball to him at all. Like, they went to that heavy Jimmy ISO shit, and it's really predictable, right? So they'll figure that shit out. But to me, it's like, why are we getting so? Like, why? Like, what are we getting so? What are we hand-wringing about? Because the game, we're talking about them blowing leads. They're the best point differential in the East, the third best in the NBA. They're not blowing that many leads.
That's true.
Normally, when they get a lead, they put their foot on somebody's neck and just keep that lead and ride that shit out. They'd have the best point differential in the league. They just got blown out a couple times, right?
They've been blown out once. No, I guess twice. The Denver game.
They got blown out twice. Yeah. And if not for that, they'd have the second best point differential in the league. So they are not blowing a lot of leads. And then when they've blown leads, it's like furious comebacks, like crazy outlier bullshit from teams at home. And we know home teams do this shit from time to time. And now, yes, you would like for them to withstand that force from a home team. And they've done it a number of times this year, where they withstand that comeback, and that, they 18-point lead gets cut to 6, and they end up winning by 14. They've done it. But, like, there are sometimes, listen, Spencer Dinwiddie hitting step backs on you. You know what I mean? Like, you was beating the dog shit out the Wizards, and all of a sudden, everybody on the Wizards, KCP out here looking like Steph. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gonna do? The offense in those situations bothers me. So when you say let's keep it real, let's have perspective, let's be honest. The offense in those situations bothers me.
Well, that's what bothers me. The defense, I always feel like, is gonna be fine. They'll figure out those holes. Yes. They'll figure out the rotation and all of those things. The offense is a problem. Whether they score 120 or they score 85, the offense is a problem.
But so my question is, the offense is weirdly one of the best in the league right now. Not to have
fourth.
Yeah, it's one
fourth.
Of the best offenses in the league.
It's better than Chicago.
And the two guys that they depend, two of their best 3-point shooters, two of their top 3, I would say,
yes, have
been dog shit from 3 compared to their career averages. What happens when those two start shooting 38 to 41% from
shit?
3?
Just average.
Right. Well, but that's the thing, though. This is why we're having this nuanced conversation, because what if they do, and then what if they don't? That's why why we're having like this. Okay, so what happens? what happens next.
I'm way less worried about Duncan than I am about Kyle. I think Kyle could be like, maybe Kyle has like a down year for shooting. Duncan, he's too. What precedent do we have of a dude being that fucking good and then being this fucking bad? This
Well,
just doesn't.
I have a question because you've watched more Kyle Lowry than I ever did in my life, and I
gotta turn off
recently.
this TV before we get.
Oh yeah. And meanwhile, I was like watching it over his shoulder.
I didn't even notice. I was very mesmerizing with his energy. We were down in the dumps. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
So I literally, after like game 5, I started like watching like clips because I never really watched him in Toronto. Like I would watch the game, but I didn't really watch him. So here's my thing. What I don't understand is that like I didn't realize, I thought he was a better shooter. And he's having a down year, but even his shot selection doesn't look great to me. So you've been watching him for years. Is he pressing, or
shot
is
selection.
this,
This is what he
or,
is. This is-
or is this an ebb and flow with him?
That's how he shoots. That's like those are the looks that he takes. He has a quick trigger. He when he sees a little daylight, he likes to. He's a heat check guy too. Like sometimes he'll try to shoot himself out of a funk. I think with him more than any,
Turn back on.
that's you came back and it was on, and I was like, okay.
I went and turned. Oh, my bad.
You look like you angled the TV. Like,
I do. I
close.
normally because the light comes in. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, like he, I said coming into the year, I was like, listen, he's a very up and down guy. If we get 35% out of him, I take that. If you were to ask me at the beginning of the season, hey, would you take 35% for 3 out of Kyle? I take that. I mean, he shot 39% last year. You know what I mean? He shot 40% the title year. So, he's up and down, but I think he's defended like a good shooter because still like it's not like Andre or like they were just like leaving his ass, right? Like he's still, they still care about him as a shooter. So it doesn't bother me as much if he's not like hitting a ton because I think the spacing matters more. You just gotta hit some, you know what I mean?
I feel like he's always been a streaky guy.
Yeah.
Where he'll go on like a 2-week stretch where he's ridiculous, or a 2-game stretch where he's ridiculous, and a 3-game stretch where he can't hit the broadside of a building. Like that's just who he is. But to me, like what you just said is really important. They respect him as a shooter. They respect Duncan as a shooter. So to me, these guys just have to be willing shooters and take open shots. Like to me, that's more important than anything because the process, long term, I always look at it like this: will the process eventually play out? Will like Tony says, will water find its level, Eric? Like what would bother me more is if Kyle and Duncan, like, and even if because PJ is gonna get cold, y'all. I really want to.
I hope not, dog. I hope not.
No, but this is but think about it, because like I said to Siobhan in the chat before the season, I said, yo, if we can get 9 points and 5 rebounds out of PJ, coupled with his defense, that's good. Who knew we were gonna be getting this?
Our hub.
But see, so right now, what he's doing
47% from 3.
He's making up for how bad Kyle and Duncan have been. So eventually he's going to regress, right? And what your hope is over the course of careers, guys find their averages. And if they find their averages, those two will more than make up for the loss of PJ production. So to me, what I watch for more is like when I'm watching the game and they're shooting a ton of threes out of rhythm. I mean, they're working their ass off to get Duncan open, and Duncan's missing. Like that's what I hate. I can't stand that. But if guys are just stepping into rhythm threes and missing them, but they're shooting them and they're shooting them willingly, I'm okay with that because the averages always work themselves out over the course of a full season. So, like to me, I'm looking at what kind of shots are they getting. Is Kyle hitting? Is Kyle missing step back threes with 2 guys on him? On some Kobe shit? No. He's missing good shots that he should be taking. Kyle Lowry shots. Duncan there were some games where he was pressing and they were forcing the ball to him. I'm fine if he's shooting and he's missing in the flow of the game because eventually that shit will work itself out. Like their offense is good despite these guys not even hitting threes.
I think it's simple, but it's not simple for Duncan. Duncan has to realize that like his shots won't come at the same time as they've came the last 2 seasons. They're not going to come at the same time. They're not coming at the same time. So he's got to mentally change his mindset because you're not the number 1 option anymore. You're not the number 2 option. So it's hard when you're accustomed to game starts and within the first 5 minutes, you've already got 5 shots up.
Yep.
He's not, but that's not happening now.
And that's why we have to. Good job, G.
That one even lasted a little longer. I feel.
I was actually listening to Tiff, but to me, that's one of the issues with Duncan, and I don't think people talk about it enough. Like his role has completely changed, right? Because we get mad when they run the offense for him, which was his old role. But if you're not running the offense for him and he's completely out of his element, you have to give him time. And honestly, he hasn't been that bad. Like we have to get up off of him a little bit. He hasn't been like he's not like 21% from 3. Like,
you know what it is? 30? It's just magnified with losses. Like when he's 2 for whatever and they win, it's
but didn't he leave the game in like the 3rd quarter? On Saturday or something?
He did. He left.
So why? So are we still blaming Duncan for the 4th quarter meltdown? Because I feel like every time they lose, Duncan's to blame. Duncan wasn't in there for the meltdown.
No,
Duncan was out there while you was whooping their ass.
Right. Well, like I said to G, I just think that they don't know who they want to go to in the clutch. For me personally, it's Jimmy can do Jimmy things, but if it's a clutch moment. You need an all 3-level scorer shooting the ball. You need a guy who can hit the 3, who can hit the mid-range, who can get to the basket, and who can make free throws. And most of the time, that's not Jimmy. That's Tyler.
It's kind of.
Listen, he's the only player you got who can do all those things
he's also
on offense. He's not afraid to take that shot. I really think it should. If he's hot, you roll with him.
I don't even if he's not hot.
Exactly.
I don't care. Like honestly, I've told you guys. Listen, I get a lot of heat for the shit talking I was doing about Tyler. I've come around on Tyler a lot, and part of it is because I believe in his role this year, and his role this year is to not have a conscience. Like. I remember I got in an argument with Siobhan one game because Tyler pulled up on a 3 on the break. And, I don't want him taking that shot. No, I want Tyler taking every fucking shot. I want him so overly confident. I want him cocky as shit because, for real, like, you don't really even he has no other responsibilities. And when he's playing that way, everything else comes naturally to him. He starts playmaking for other guys because that's not his primary role. Right. He starts playmaking because it's in the flow of what he does. I'm being Tyler. I'm being a bucket. Boom. Right. Here's a little pass. Here, I'm gonna sprinkle this here, sprinkle this there. Like I want him to be selfish. I want him to be unconscious. I don't want him to have any. I want him to just worry about scoring and worry about Tyler Hero. That's when he's at his best to me, and that's the kind of guy. Late in the 4th quarter, give him the ball because he don't care what the coverages are. He's not worried where the double team is coming from. And if he's in that mode, he is going to make the smart play for the most part.
Charles Barkley used to say every title team needs a crazy dude. Tyler has to be like their crazy dude. Like they have overpassers, right? Like Jimmy, Kyle, and Bam overpass. Tyler's a finisher. He's not going to pass out of the basket for better or for worse. So I think he kind of really he balances them a bit. I mean, Tyler's shooting 36% in the clutch. Not good. Obviously you want that up a little bit, but I don't really think any of this is on him either. I think it's pretty they have issues.
How much clutch have they really played though?
They've played I'll tell you right now. It's not a lot, but they've but while I get that information for you, like I think I think the important thing for them is they just suck against switches, and late in game they've played about 35 minutes of clutch time, 36
It's
minutes.
a very small sample size.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I
Not even
mean,
a whole
it's
game.
a small sample size, but the reality is, they just have
24 minutes, excuse me. They played 24
they
minutes.
just
of
go
clutch.
from being very smart players, and this is every game. They go from being very smart to very dumb very quickly
And you know what happens when they get dumb? It's because they're overthinking.
and overpassing.
They have
overpassing is. I feel like that's a result of overthinking.
they have
Right.
legitimate issues,
Like,
Alf,
Yep.
against switches. They have
absolutely
legit
do, and that's because
problems.
they overthink they overthink.
They can't.
Switching.
They don't have dudes that can beat guys off the dribble outside of Jimmy. I think when you put a little bit of size on Tyler, and that's not Tyler's fault, it gets a little more difficult for him, right? And I think you look at, okay, well, Jimmy is our best guy, like to be able to like play against bigger guys or smaller guys, but then we've kind of seen how that plays out. Kyle is not beating dudes off the dribble anymore. I think we talked about that on Hangover Time last show. That part of his game's just not really there unless he gets a big guy. So you really just have, and it happens on the other end too, because like teams just look for Tyler or Duncan, and it's not their fault. It's just whether you're in a drop or you're switching defense, like they're just gonna find you, right? Like these bigger, like Bradley Beal, LeBron, like these power guys are gonna like, where is the small guy? And I'm gonna eat, right? Jimmy does the same. So
I know we're not calling Duncan a small guy. So
I mean, he's a skinny.
I will say his
fragile.
defense has been tremendous lately. Like on that, we killing him, but like his defense has been really, really good. So,
I thought the Wizards game, it was as bad a defensive game he's played, but that's really like
I didn't
one
see
of the
that.
only.
Are you talking about just the
Yeah.
last one?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
last one was.
this last game was
Because the
horrible.
game before that, I mean, he was standing up dudes in the post,
Nah, he was
going
good.
for steals. Like
He
was-
works hard,
Yeah, he was. I mean,
but
I
he,
don't know, I
when
think
you
we're-
put him on an island though, like that's you
But I
can't
also-
Yeah,
expect
he's-
him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they played 4 games in 6 nights. We have to also think about that as well. Like it
Oh,
was.
for
we
sure.
al-
They've lost
but we
one
also
home game.
know like they're not the best defenders. Like we
Yeah.
know this. Like nothing's changed. So that's up to like at some point too, that's up to the other guys. You know who you're on the floor with. You know if Bradley Beal is hunting out Tyler or Duncan.
Stop switching.
You know, right. Like
switch.
Somebody
but then
stay
you get
home.
those dudes. But then you get those dudes in a drop, and you know what I mean. So like now you really, which I'm not saying that there's a right. It's fucking Schmeat, Smolden, Kyle Lowry's boots, Raymond Felton. I not that there's a right or wrong answer, but like if you put those guys in drop anyway, like it's you're still gonna get the other team's gonna get the result they want regardless. So I think a switch simplifies it a little bit, but I get what you're saying.
But they also have not been playing a lot of Duncan and Tyler in crunch time.
No, it's usually
Yeah,
No,
so
you
it's not.
can't.
It's kind of a moot
Yeah.
point.
You can't.
And that wasn't the situation on Saturday.
No, and that was specifically like Beal's like, where's Tyler's man? And then they get the switch, and then PJ would be on Spencer, and he had to come help, and then that's how that swing would happen.
That's
And
what
also,
this is
then
going
they
to
were
be.
hitting step back threes.
No,
I mean,
no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
it was.
But even if they weren't, this is like I've kind of at that point I've kind of just bypassed that because listen, you need Tyler on the court in the crunch, right? So you got to deal with whatever happens on the defensive end, and that's when everybody it's got to be all hands on deck. Everybody's got to be ready. If you think that blow by is coming, that next man needs to be there stepping up. Like that's just what it is. Like you can't have him and Duncan on the bench. Somebody's got to be able to shoot.
To me, if like a guy like Bradley Beal gets ISO'd on Tyler, you got to sell out. You got to sell out and rush Beal. But then the problem is, guys like KCP and Dinwiddie were just hitting threes on your ass. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do you do? You know,
And it's not like PJ wasn't coming out and contesting, right? Like they were
hitting everything.
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, once
Like,
they got hot, that was pretty much that was
and
a done
the
deal.
missed travel call too. I feel like we've been really complaining about the refs a lot lately. That one was really bad. That missed travel, and you can't even challenge it, right? So Spo's on the sideline, like doing the motion, and we all knew it was a travel. They can't review it. They can't do shit. So if that call goes the other way, all of a sudden, I guess we don't feel great, right? Hangover Time's a little different that night, but like they're still winning. You know what I mean? So it's stuff.
Yeah,
that
like
gets
how
cleaned
different
up.
do we feel about this game if they won by 3?
Alf,
Right.
you remember the big 3? How fucking shitty they were at late game offense? It was every fucking game.
I tell you, I'm really, really not worried. And I'm the kind of person who, during a win streak, we were doing it last year, like, and we were sitting here telling you, don't get fooled.
Alf, I'm the party pooper. I always shit on them.
That was a bad team on win streak. Sometimes you're watching them because, and I'm telling you, I know I'm not the big numbers guy, and maybe I'm being simplistic about this, but I look at point differential is huge to me.
It is.
If you like, there are teams with negative point differentials that are like 1 game behind the Heat. Like, I'm not really worried about the motherfuckers. Like, you don't win games by a lot, but when you lose, you get blown the fuck out. Like, that was the Heat last year.
Oh,
They kept pulling little wins out the ass like the Wizards just did. Like, I would have been livid as a Wizard. If we were the Hangover Time for the Wizards, I'd be like, that's a bullshit ass win. Don't get fooled by that horse shit. Like,
That's what we were doing.
Yeah. We're going to sit here. If I'm a Wizards fan, I'm like, oh, shit, we had to rely on Dinwiddie and KCP threes to pull out a game. We were getting our ass whooped in. Like, I'd be worried. But on the other side of it, I'm watching a team who the Wizards are one of the best teams in the East. They played them twice in a row, and they were significantly better than them. Not a little bit. Significantly better than them.
The reality is, and we haven't really talked about it, but like we're clicking on all cylinders. Like we're hoping soon rather than later. They're easily the best team in the East.
Easily.
But the problem is we're waiting. So as long as we're waiting and we keep pulling out wins, I don't care if it's by 1 or by 10. You gotta beat the teams that are in front of you, however you need to do it. But Saturday,
they better win these 2 fucking games before that.
Well, listen, but here's the thing: Saturday, you're gonna see what everybody's made of. You're gonna see what every guard on this team is made of Saturday. Because guess what?
Like a playoff game.
It is gonna feel like a playoff game, and they gonna hunt the hell out of our guys. And guess what? If you're Tyler, you get hunted. You know what to do on the other end. That's it.
Because I don't know. I mean, how are they gonna deal with Jimmy?
Who's gonna deal with Jimmy?
The Bulls.
They put Lonzo on.
They don't have, but that's the thing. They don't have to. The problem is they're gonna be running waves of guards at us. How are our guards going to be able to stand
up? You got to
up?
punch back. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, you mean like
that's
us
what I'm saying?
Because I'm not worried about Miami's defensively.
I'm not worried about their defense. They'll figure that shit out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Chicago,
they don't have Vucevic is still out.
Yeah, but I'm not taking him into account. I'm taking into account.
I'm talking about the fact that now you have Bam, who's a little bit of a roamer more than he would be if Vucevic was in there. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not as worried about the Heat. I don't know. I think it's going to be a really good game. I really like the Bulls. Like,
I want to see what Tyler and Kyle and Duncan do. Like we keep saying we're waiting for this streak to bust and for them to be shooting. Guess what? Like these 2 games before Saturday, that's the warm up.
Yeah, they got to win.
They need to get those 2.
They haven't won in Minnesota since Jimmy got here. So they got to change that. The Bulls,
4 out of their last 5.
The Timberwolves?
No, the Heat.
Oh yeah. They were on a 4-game win streak before that. Yeah. So I mean they'll be good. And they're 500 on the road. This is a get well road trip for them.
Yeah.
Before that Bulls game.
And remember those. Honestly, that Denver, the 2 LA games, I don't count none of that shit.
The Denver game, fine. Whatever.
I don't count any of them.
They lost a game at Denver, like everybody in the fucking league does. The Laker game, they lost in overtime without their MVP candidate, and then the Clipper game went down to the wire without their MVP candidate. So it's
one of them was I don't remember which one was Bam was in foul trouble in the first quarter.
All of them.
All of them.
That happened in the Wizards game too. Shit, my guys. He's a little Hassan in him lately. Not his fault. I'm kidding. I would never say that about Bam. By the way, the Bulls, 20th in rebounding. Miami has not that this is the Weird Al pregame show previewing the Bulls, but Miami just has so many advantages, and like the Chicago is small. Like you look, and it's more to say like you look down the teams in the East. obviously Brooklyn's going to be there at the end. Miami went into that building and kicked their fucking ass, right? Even last year, the Miami would not struggle with Brooklyn as much as other teams. Chicago, I don't know how we really feel about that. I don't think anybody watched either of those Wizards games and thinks, yeah, Washington's on the same level as Miami.
No.
I know that they won, but like nobody thinks that. And then what? That leaves whatever the fuck's going on in Milwaukee. I mean, I don't know when we're supposed to start taking that seriously. Middleton's been back.
Well, yeah, you can't take them seriously until like they get everybody back. So that's
they have Drew Middleton and Giannis back.
Why I see that. I'm sorry. Why are they the only team afforded that shit?
Because they won the title, but the Heat wouldn't have afforded that.
Well, here's the difference.
Level title.
They're afforded it because, like, we know that you're nothing until you have all your players. Like we know that, but everybody else in the media and this and that. So there's a different story to it. But like realistically, if we had Jimmy out and somebody else out, then it's like we don't know what we got until we get everybody healthy. We don't know what the Bucks have.
The Bucks have
That's
the same.
We know they
record
got
as the
Giannis.
They don't have Brook Lopez, and everyone's like giving him all these excuses. It's motherfucking Brook Lopez. Like I know. I know he's an anchor.
He wasn't the only. They had four for forever.
No,
they had like four.
Now. I'll say
now.
They're
Okay.
still losing.
They won 3 in a row, but still.
But I mean, okay. But even when there was games they had Middleton, Drew, and Giannis, they lose, and it was like, oh, they're not healthy because they're missing Vincenzo and Brook Lopez. Like nobody else gets that. Nobody else gets.
I tried to tell y'all about Bobby Portis. Nobody wanted to listen to me.
Nobody's talking about Brooklyn missing Kyrie.
They really, Bobby.
Well,
yeah, not anymore.
Right, that's done. Nobody's talking about him at all.
Yeah, we were in reruns. Shit. Well, Canada declared that you can't come in unvaccinated, so that crosses another team off. The Kyrie to the Raptors dream is dead.
I honestly think if this team, and I'm not even talking about what happens when Vic comes back, but if these players that we have right now that are playing, if they're all clicking, they're easy the best team in the East. Like I literally sat there and watched them manhandle James Harden and Kevin Durant.
The Hornets are beating the Wizards right now. That's funny. And the Cavs are beating the Nets.
Listen, the Cavs are scrappy.
Imagine doing Hangover Time for the Brooklyn Nets and the fucking the Colin Sexton-less Cavs are giving you the work.
That's because
That's a rough show. That's a hard 10.
That's a hard 10.
Because Garland showed up. Listen, I was at the stadium and I was like, damn, ain't no Brooklyn fans in here? And then everybody they came walking in.
It's bad, Tiff. I didn't. You said that?
It's bad out there in those parts.
Oh, man.
The gentrificationers came in. And they had like their own like sushi they brought with them. I was like, these ain't real fans. Y'all got chopsticks and shit. These ain't fans.
They got artisan mayonnaise.
Yes, they do.
Aioli
and Crocs. Aioli and Crocs.
Aioli and Crocs. The true signs of gentrification.